Welcome back to The Girl Who Speaks Bear, written by Sophia Anderson, illustrated by Katrin Hanesta, and read with permission from Usborne Publishers. I have to say that every time. We're up to chapter 10. It's called Yuri. I lean back in the chair and imagine Mamochka, arms folded over her chest, telling me the story is nonsense. A bear cub turning into a human child. It's impossible. But then I look down at my legs. There's a blanket on the arm of the chair. I pull it over me, but it doesn't hide the shape of my legs, and my claws poke out, so I close my eyes. A memory climbs into my mind of standing on the bear Tsarina's back, on 4 paws. I tell myself it's my imagination, that I'm fired up by what Ivan the Grey said, and this ridiculous story. But it feels real. The fur on my leg rustles and my claws splay wide as I stretch, and the sensations are suddenly familiar. Lost memories force their way to the surface. I remember rolling over to cover my fur with the scent of the dry earth, licking my snout with a long wet tongue, my ears swivelling to the sounds of fish splashing. I remember being all bare. Cold creeps over me, and now I'm sitting still. I feel as though I'm falling through the air, about to crash into the ground. I spent my whole life feeling unsettled in the village, like I didn't fit, but it never occurred to me that might be because I'm not meant to be with people, with humans at all. Maybe I'm meant to be alone in the forest, as a bear. Tears spill down my cheeks, for Mamochka, for Sasha, for all the things I love about the village, but didn't realise until now. The squat wooden houses that line the square, the hall with its carved painted roof, the way everyone works together to build things for the festivals. Even the way the villagers compare my strength to a bear's. It might have made me feel different, but it was usually meant as a compliment. For the first time since I entered the forest, it occurs to me that I might never be able to go back, and that makes me feel more alone than ever. I open my mouth to call for mousetrap, but the words stick in my throat, and I find all I can do is squeeze my eyes shut and cry myself to sleep. I'm woken by Mousetrap's whiskers tickling my cheek. I open my eyes and flinch as a dead mouse swings into focus right underneath my nose. Bought you breakfast. Mousetrap nudges the carcass closer. You were asleep when I returned from my hunt last night, so I caught this one fresh for you this morning. No thanks. I wrinkle my nose and sit up. Mousetrap looks from me to the mouse. His mouth draws into a thin, offended line. What's wrong with it? Nothing, I'm just not hungry. I slide my legs out from under the blanket and look at my bare feet. I knew they would still be there. I felt their weight, but that didn't stop me from hoping they might have disappeared. I wish none of this had happened. I wish I was in my house with my own legs having breakfast with Mamochka. My stomach rumbles at the thought. Not hungry? Mousetrap looks at my belly accusingly. Not for mice. I snap a couple of bread rings off my sushki necklace and pop them into my mouth, then shuffle across the floor, getting used to the feel of my new legs again. I unbolt the door, eager to breathe in the morning air and clear my head of gloomy, fruitless thoughts. Sunshine dazzles on the snow outside. I step into it and the cold makes me feel awake and alive. A mouse darts through a tunnel beneath me, and the sensation is so magical I feel foolish for wishing away these feet. I lift my head into the air and laugh. Ha! I have bear legs! I shout at the trees and my voice echoes back at me from every direction. Suddenly I'm bursting to know more about my legs and why I have them. I close my fingers around my arrowhead necklace. Where shall I go today? I rush into the cabin, have a quick tidy up, throw on my coat and step back outside, unrolling my map. The sketch of the Blue Mountains pulls my gaze like it has its own gravity. That's where I need to go. The bear Tsarina will be there, and I'll be able to talk to her, like I can talk to Mousetrap. Meeting Ivan, hearing his words, and reading the story of the bear's child has convinced me there is truth in Anatoly's tales, and if anyone knows the truth, it would be the bear Tsarina. She raised me for the first 2 years of my life, so she'll know who or what I am, and hopefully know why I'm changing now. I need to find her. The sun is high in the sky and I curse myself for sleeping in. Mamochka could be on her way here now, determined to find me and take me to the hospital. And the blue mountain looks far away, more than a day's walk. After struggling to see in the dark and hearing the howls of the wolf pack, I'd rather not travel at night again, which means planning a route that will get me to another of Anatoly's cabins before dusk. I look at my map again. If I walk north along the banks of the Silver Stream, I'll pass 2 of Anatoly's cabins. It's a winding, indirect route, but it's easy to follow, and if Anatoly's in one of the cabins, he could sledge me to the bear cave. "Human girl?" Mousetrap shouts, and I turn to see him hanging over the edge of the roof. "There's a store up here. It might hold Anatoly's cod, but I can't get in." I squint at the viewing platform Anatoly had built on the roof. I had forgotten all about it. The last time I came here, when I was 5 years old, I was small enough for Anatoly to lift me onto it. The platform is the perfect place to get a look at the route I've planned, and it might give me an idea of exactly how far away the bear cave is. "On my way!" I call to Mousetrap and bound through the snow to a ladder fixed at the far end of the cabin. I step onto it tentatively, worried it won't hold my weight, but each rung is thick and holds firm. The view from the roof whips my breath away. The snowy forest stretches out as far as I can see, and the enormity of it makes me giddy. "Mousetrap, look!" My hand flies up when I spot the blue mountain in the distance, rising from the forest like a tooth. But Mousetrap isn't paying attention. He's trying to break the lock on a small store while still babbling on about cod. I unroll my map again and try and match it up with the landscape. The Silver Stream shines as it cuts through the forest. Though it's called a stream, it's actually a long, braided river, and in places it is as wide and deep as a lake. Its icy surface is breaking up, crumpling and shifting as channels of water start to flow. I can't believe it's already 2 days since the festival, when the big melt began. I'm jolted by an echoing crash, a splash, and a piercing scream. My gaze darts along the riverbank below. The scream rises to an ear-splitting screech, and finally I spot the creature in distress, something large and leggy, maybe a deer or an elk. It's fallen through the ice at the river's edge and is thrashing around, trying to pull itself out. "Help!" The creature's cries become words in my mind, and I rush to the ladder, pushing my map back into my pocket. It takes too long to climb down, so I jump into the snow and run across the clearing. "I'm going to help!" I call back to Mousetrap, but he's streaking alongside me already. I pick up speed as the ground slopes away and skid down the hill, snow avalanching ahead of my feet. Then I pause at the bottom to listen for the cries again. "This way!" Mousetrap sprints ahead of me, and I follow him off the trail, through tightly packed pines until the shrieks are so loud I know we must be close. But light shines ahead, reflecting off the ice on the river. A young elk is struggling in the water at the edge. I can just make out his long brown face, 2 short velvety antlers, and 2 gangly legs skidding around in front of him as he fails to get a grip. His whole back end has fallen through the ice. "Help!" he wails, and I rush towards him. But I stop in my tracks when I see a person behind a tangle of branches, kneeling next to the elk. They are wrapped in a huge coat with a fur-lined hood that covers their face. Mousetrap leaps onto my shoulder and squeezes deep into my collar out of sight. "Get off!" The elk shrieks as the person tries to loop a rope under his front legs. He cries for help again, his voice panicked and confused. I groan as I walk over because I don't want the person to see me like this. I'm scared their stare might wither away the last of my hope of ever fitting in with people. But I can't leave the elk struggling when I could help. I glance down. My long skirt covers everything apart from my feet, and they might pass for boots. The person is so focused on the rope that they haven't noticed me approaching, so I kneel next to the elk, hiding my feet behind me. "It's all right," I say gently, putting my hand on his warm, silk-soft snout. The elk's big brown eyes swivel towards me, wide with fear. I wrap my arms around his woolly neck to prevent him sliding further into the river, and his legs stop thrashing. "I'm Yanka," I whisper into his ear. "I'm going to help you." Yuri," the elk stammers. I'm Yuri. Help me up. I'm so cold. I turn to the person still fumbling with the rope, and my mouth drops open when they look up at me with familiar grey eyes. Sasha? What are you doing here?